Mommy, I'm very sorry that I was so annoyed 10 years ago when you dragged me out of Cats the musical. Now, I wish you were here to drag me out of Cats the movie. Hi everyone, shalom, ciao, namaste. I am Ilana, aka Elmar Superstar, and welcome to my channel. This is PCP, Pop Culture Psychology Film Analysis Edition. Alright, so this is my second time trying to film this video. I had filmed it in full the first time about a month ago when I wanted to do 30 days of 30 videos. Obviously that didn't happen. I accidentally deleted the first part of this and then I just deleted the whole thing. Now I have another chance to do it better than before. So let's dive right in. Today's video is going to be about the 2019 film adaptation of Cats and whether or not it could become a cult classic. For those of you that don't know, Cats is an adaptation of T.S. Eliot's Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats and is considered amongst one of the most successful and iconic Broadway musicals of all time. Except for the movie, not so iconic. I'm just gonna say what I said about the Bollywood remake of Drive. Cats was just bad, okay? Nothing could have saved this film, and I pretty much mean nothing. The one time I didn't want to rip off Idris Elba's clothes, although I wouldn't have mind ripping off the cat suit. I mean, everybody knew that it was bad when they first saw the trailer, and it's like, what were people thinking? Were they thinking, this is... I wasn't. What we're given for the story is, it's about a group of cats that are putting on their best performances at the Jellicle Ball to win the coveted prize of ascending to the Heaviside Layer to start a new life. Translation, they're sending some poor to their demise. Where have I seen this before?
We've had as much of this world as you're gonna get. Let's just be done with it. Let's be done with the agony of it.
Disciples, those who are trying to prepare themselves for entry, the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven.
If that wasn't obvious enough, the Jellicle Cats are most definitely a cult, considering that when Grisabella left with Macavity, she was outcasted. It's basically bordering on the same anthropomorphic territories of stories like Animal Farm and Watership Down in an attempt to bring such a serious subject to light in a non-human form. I do love musicals, but the soundtrack for Cats is not my favorite by any means, and it actually took a second time watching this to realize that Jellicle Cats is the love child of Pink Elephants on Parade from Dumbo, and Heffalumps and Woozles from Winnie the Pooh and the Blustering Day.
A heffalump or woozle is very confusing.
Every musical has that standout song. With Les Miserables, it's I Dreamed a Dream. Rent, Seasons of Love. Wicked, Defying Gravity. For Cats, it's Memory. And Jennifer Hudson is such a powerhouse. She absolutely killed this rendition, and I know that she is just going to rock the house with her portrayal of Aretha Franklin. One of the songs I actually did enjoy was the one that Taylor Swift co-wrote with Andrew Lloyd Webber entitled Beautiful Ghost. I can imagine that it's not an easy task to add a new song to a musical book that's already set in stone and recognized, as was seen with the new song Suddenly for the live-action adaptation of Les Miserables. But I thought that Beautiful Ghost fit really well with the overall tone of Cats, and that they should definitely consider adding it to any future adaptations for the Broadway musical. It's really a shame, since the movie did so poorly it was pulled from the FYC for the Academy Awards, because Beautiful Ghost definitely deserved a nomination for Best Original Song, which has become something of a dying category over the years, despite exceptions like Let It Go and Shallow. Francesca Hayward plays Victoria, who was originally a supporting character but was bumped up to the lead for the movie, and it turns out that she's a principal dancer for the Royal Ballet, having danced the leads in such classics as The Nutcracker, Giselle, and Sleeping Beauty. She was also one of 15 women to be on the cover of the September 2019 Forces of Change issue of British Vogue, which was guest edited by Duchess of Sussex Meghan Markle. I'm sure that there were some high expectations that she could catapult into acting from this movie. There have been some truly dazzling debuts in cinema over the years. Barbra Streisand for Funny Girl, or Julie Andrews in Mary Poppins, winning them both the Academy Award for Best Actress. Cameron Diaz in The Mask, Edward Norton in Primal Fear, Haley Steinfeld in True Grit, Deepika Padukone for Om Shanti Om. You guys knew I was gonna throw in a Bollywood reference. These were very special debuts because they all kind of had that aha moment where you could just tell that they had that star factor, that they were going places. Cats only showcased Francesca's dancing and singing abilities. It didn't touch on much else because her acting was very one-dimensional, of being innocent and naive. However, Victoria did have an endearing on-screen chemistry with Mr. Mistopheles, whom I spent the entire movie thinking it was Robert Pattinson. With that being said, I think that was kind of the point. I do think that this adaptation was more based on the dancing and the singing and not so much the acting to make or break the movie, as these weren't as emotionally invested roles as seen in other musicals like Rent or Chicago. There was a lot riding on this considering it had an all-star cast and an Academy Award-winning director in Tom Hooper. Tom Hooper had directed the first ever musical film adaptation of Les Miserables, which was a wild success both commercially and critically, not to mention garnering 2 Academy Awards. So the bar was set very high in regards to expectations and anticipation. It was released in December to coincide with the winter holiday and award season, so there were quite a few factors to make it Oscar bait, not to mention that it was such an anticipated adaptation, and it just tremendously missed the mark. In my opinion, it was also a huge mistake to release this on the same day as the final Star Wars movie, which has a 10 times bigger following than any musical ever would. Considering that Cats does have such a dynamic legacy, this really should have been a labor of love instead of the botched rush job that we got due to the fact that they just wanted to squeeze it in for the Academy Awards, since the majority of films that are nominated for the Oscars are released between October and December, with those few exceptions throughout the rest of the year. I think that most musical adaptations to the screen are hit or miss because it's being reconstructed from the original stage format to that of film. Film has the advantages of camera angles and cinematography and special effects, which can really accentuate or hinder the film-going experience with any movie, but especially with that of a musical adaptation. Although these are entirely different experiences, theater is more interactive in a sense because the audience and the actors are all in the same place at the same time, whereas with film, it's only the audience. The lines are really blurred with suspension of disbelief in stage productions. It all lies in attention to detail because with film, you can branch out more creatively, whereas with musicals, it can be limited to just one set. Even though I love musicals, I'm one of the few people that actually prefer the movie adaptation over the original stage production, and I know that there are quite a few theater people out there that would probably rip my head off for even saying that. My experience with both theater and film kids was honestly a bag of mixed nuts. Some were very friendly and down to earth, while the rest were very snooty and had an ego and wanted to debate every single little thing. They're pretty much the epitome of being a stan, and I think that's why they isolated me. Honestly, I don't know why I was so despised by these groups. Maybe because I had the biggest boobs. I have no idea. I know that T.S. Eliot stipulated that he did not want Cats to have an animated adaptation, and I think that was a mistake. There's more marketing expansion. With animation, it's appealing to a younger demographic, not to mention merchandising opportunities. Instead, they went with this motion capture monstrosity, which, as I pointed out in my underrated holiday films video, can be a hit or miss. One of the big attractions for Cats, besides the choreography, is the face paint and lycra makeup. This is deja vu in a way, considering that the live-action adaptation of The Cat in the Hat made Dr. Seuss's widow decide that any future adaptations of his work would only be done in the form of CGI over live action. Basically, Cats is the Cat in the Hat sequel that never came to fruition. The argument has been raised on whether or not Cats could eventually become a cult classic. So, is The Cult of Cats a cult classic? A cult film is one that has acquired a cult status and or following. Cult followings have become an inclusive experience through audience participation, multiple viewings, quoting of dialogue, and I feel that that's what gave birth to fan fiction as well as the formation of pop culture as a whole. One of the fascinating aspects of cult films is finding beauty in the absurdity. Rocky Horror Picture Show, known for its monumental flamboyance, really kickstarted the trend of midnight screenings, which today has become an ingenious marketing and selling point for huge franchise movies. It also became a staple of non-traditional musicals after The Who's Tommy and before John Waters' Cry Baby. Pulp Fiction and The Big Lebowski are the biggest cult films of all time, having become standouts for black humor, criminal corporations, and philosophical ideologies. Movies like Showgirls and Striptease, which in theory were interesting ideas, failed to land due to overt sexual content, inconsistent or sloppy storytelling, and bad acting. They also fall into being movies that are so bad they're good, and that leads people to get together and rejoice in the badness. This includes The Room, which is completely nonsensical.
You are tearing me apart!
Donnie Darko falls into the nostalgia category, combining an 80s aesthetic with sinister elements of fantasy, horror, and psychology. There are campy films like Pink Flamingos, Wet Hot American Summer, and Best in Show. Eraserhead and Shaun of the Dead have both become favorites of the horror genre. So, is Cats a new age cult classic? The jury's still out on that one, but if you want a version that does the musical justice, I highly suggest checking out the 1998 one. I believe it is on YouTube. And And if you want to waste almost 2 hours of your life, Cats is currently streaming on HBO Max. That is going to be it for today's segment. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe. I'll catch you in the next play of Dalmatians. Bye!